Welcome to Something to Talk About. We are here at King's in Mooning, and it's always my favorite place to go when we're filming today because it's still the Lenten season, and we have fish and chips, and we have some fruit, which is the, I don't know, the yin and the yang of things
Good balance.
of life. But I'm here talking with a buddy pal, somebody who has called into my show on K57, or I have solicited advice or some kind of take on things because he knows a lot, and I sometimes get latched on to people who know a lot. I should be paying you a retainer fee, but I'm glad to introduce to you Eddie Cruz. He's I think what I wanted to bring you to the show for today was because you represent, I think, an average person's take on things, and there's a wealth of knowledge here. Your cousin Mark told me, ask Eddie, he likes to talk. So apparently your family members also defer to your knowledge and maybe your seniority, I don't know. But
yeah, well, ever since my dad passed, I think everybody defers to me. My dad's been very outspoken in the community.
Well, let's talk about that first. Who are you?
Well, if you go back, way back, I come from, part of my family comes from Spanish heritage, all the way back from Madrid, Spain, and that's the Cruz side, which is the Tuan family from Sumay. And just recently we went back and visited his grave. His name is Juan Agun Cruz. And if you look at the cemetery there, right on the right side of the main cross in the cemetery is his monument. But according to the stories that I've heard, they exhumed his body and took him back to Madrid because he has some royal heritage or something, and they wanted him to have him buried in Madrid. But anyway, that's my father's side of the family is the Cruz. And then on my grandmother's side, on the left side, are the indigenous people of Guam, the Taitanos, the Tauruses, the Florises, and whatever. So I kind of have that fabric of being blend into the system and representing, just basically everybody was here, especially before the war.
Your family settled in, I'm just remembering that your family settled in Agana.
Yes, after the war, half of my family went to Agana. The other half went back to Jigo, and where we have a large ranch. And my great-grandfather had done work with then the Department of Public Works, and also was one of the first mayors of Jigo. So, they kind of split there, but it was because of the war. Because at one time, we were very involved in Sumay, just like a lot of families that do a lot of commerce on Guam, because that was the center of commerce. So my grandfather actually had something to do with the Pan American Clipper, and his family maintained some of the fuel systems and stuff for the Clipper. And they brought the plane in, and of course they brought it on shore, so that all required manpower. And that's basically what he did down there. But the community in Sumay was really close-knit, and everybody knew each other.
It was a thriving, working community.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like he's also very popular here in Kings because everybody's like waving at him. They're like, look, who's that? But there's Eddie.
Yeah, I feel bad for Pat.
He's like, yeah, more people know me than you. But that's fine because you've also been, you have a hand in a lot of things.
I try to.
So the Cruz family was mostly in what? Was it transportation? Was it?
It's a matter of whatever needed to be done. The community
Was that like an old school way kind of thing?
It's an old school way. It's the true entrepreneurship as far as trying to, if you have a need for something, you fill that need. So my family's done everything from hauled garbage to, taking scrap from the war to provided all kinds of different services. It wasn't until my dad's generation that they started becoming professionals. I have an aunt that's a doctor.
Dr. Olivia Cruz.
Yes.
Okay.
I have an uncle that's an engineer. Actually, I got a few uncles that are engineers. One of them worked for the Army Corps of Engineers in Virginia, and he retired and lives there currently. And
so your family was real strong in like the sciences. That was your forte. Then
yeah,
is that your legacy?
Pretty much. We had a gas station in Agana for many years.
I do remember that on Route 4, Cruz gas station.
Right across from
Imperial Shopping Center,
Yes,
nice.
exactly, the St. Nicholas and the
Yeah, across
Yeah.
from Winchell's, which is now part of the. There's still an empty lot there, but it's neighboring the Bank of Guam
That's
parking lot.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, from that Bank of Guam parking lot, part of that is our property there.
Right.
And they've been leasing it from
Yeah.
us. And so that's why I've been closely monitoring the redevelopment of Agania, you know, and because apparently they're wanting to take some of that property, so we're going to lose some history there. Actually, one of the barrio bridges is buried under that parking lot,
Ah, yeah.
and I was responsible for preserving it. I packed it in sand before they raised the road, and so that way, if anybody historically wants to go back and find it, they can dig it up.
It's still down there.
there.
So your family has been instrumental in the transport of goods and services
Yes.
throughout the island, which is crucial to the movement and productivity of an economy.
Yes, you're correct.
So, if you can't move your goods,
That's correct.
and then we forget that is the vehicle, excuse the pun, but that is the vehicle by which people get their goods in the stores and
Yes.
the like. Okay.
And everything that comes out of commercial port or the airport has to go by truck one way or another,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So it's the trucking industry is very important here. And it's
It's
got
not
to be-
unionized though, right?
it's not
and
unionized.
And they're all local family
Yes.
owned.
all
all of them.
Every one of them.
Wow.
So that's amazing. In fact, it's so unique that even the shipping companies like Matson, APL, although they have some of their own vehicles, they rely on the local truckers. And the local truckers have been very good about keeping their prices modest in order to keep consumer pricing down. So that's been a good indicator to the community that there still are people that care about cost of living and, because we lost a lot of family. They moved stateside. Some of them because of the cost, some of them because of jobs, some of them because of medical reasons and stuff like that. So when you get people in the community that care about a community, that's very important.
Well, a lot of people don't understand, or they don't make the connection. They understand once they make the connection that when you're transporting goods on roadways like Guam, every little bump in the road, every time they restructure, every time they construct, any time that they divert or do something, that affects what we spend in the markets.
That's correct, and same with maintenance.
Yeah.
Gov Guam has been very bad about doing maintenance on highways. They've relied on the federal government to be a partner to build new roadways, construct new highways, and so when it comes to doing any kind of maintenance, everybody knows the potholes. I mean, how long does it take to get a pothole fixed? It usually takes the residents to go out there and fill it themselves in
Yeah.
the village streets. So maintenance has been a key concern, and over the years we've kind of neglected it because we've grown so rapidly in the last 3 decades that it seems like we're always constructing something new. So I think that the practice is now, land is finite, and we're needing to do maintenance, regular maintenance, and try to control the traffic as best we can, and that's involves also the restriction of weights and types of vehicles on the highways.
Yeah.
So it's very important.
And every little thing affects you we're talking about rising fuel prices right now, what you're finding in the increase in the liquid fuel tax and the dedication of that money to a fund that should have already
Yes.
been replenished every single time we went to the pump
and that
anyway.
kitty should be left alone so it's used for the intended purpose. And that's another vote I had to pick with the senators was, if you dedicate a fund, don't you think that it should be used for that? And if not, and you had a surplus at the end of the year, then I could see you could transfer some of it. But if you've got a need and you've already identified that need, already made plans. We're great about making plans. We're just terrible about implementing
We're
them.
also great about creating funds that are dedicated to those plans, but we always seem to tap into that checking
Yes.
account when things run low.
That's correct.
It's a bad way to govern, yet it's a common practice here,
Well,
isn't that?
in the private industry, if you do that a lot, you end up getting fired.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So it's really unique. I think it's unique to the government of Guam because they're always scrambling and trying to cover a crisis.
Yeah.
And crisis management in the private industry is the wrong way to operate.
Well, you
a
can't
business.
do business
You can't.
if you're always on
That's
the
correct.
opposite side of progress.
That's
yeah.
correct.
But we don't run this as the government doesn't run as the private industry.
But why doesn't it?
Because it's not their money.
That's a
It's
good
always
point.
so
That's a
easy
good
to,
point.
to manage other people's
Yes.
money when you have no vested interest.
Yes.
You know, it's not the fiduciary responsibility may not always be on you if you're just appropriating.
Yeah, if it's not your money and your job doesn't rely on it, you know, especially
Yeah.
your political hire,
Yeah.
you know, it's like an endless bank account. You just keep
No, and that's
draining it.
that's the attitude. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break here. Eddie and I had a conversation on the radio recently about his trip back to Sumai, and I was so interested in this conversation as we're coming up on Liberation 75. There's a generation that can still remember how their parents were coming out of the war. I'm a little bit removed from it, but not too far. But I think that you have a little more of an exact sort of representation of what your parents went through. So we're going to come back, talk a little bit about that. And I don't know, it's Eddie Cruz. We can talk about anything. So we'll be right back. Back with Eddie Cruz, and it really is a potpourri of conversation topics. We haven't really planned on anything, but I did remember the conversation that we had, and there was something that touched me about you and your family, the Cruz family, making that trip back to Sumai. You guys are really close. That's the other thing. Your father, you know, your Mark's dad.
Yeah.
You know, your family's Dr. Olivia Cruz. Aunt Rosemarie,
Yeah,
right, Uncle Jim.
we're-
So everybody,
We're very close, especially, you know, to, I was raised by my grandmother, so I've got the old folk values, you know. I was taken to the funerals, taken to all the parties and everything. I had to go because I was basically an only child and raised by my grandmother because somebody had to go with her. So I got the duty, you know, and I got to meet the old people, and I developed an interest in their stories. And what's really remarkable is a lot of those people withheld a lot of information regarding their experiences and stuff during the war. And so it always concerned me of what are they hiding? What are they talking about that they're not really giving all the information out? And there were just so many hardships. And you know, it wasn't the war of the Chamorros. We were just trapped here in between two great countries, you know, the Japanese and the Americans.
was it different when you listened to the experiences from your family members and then others that lived in different parts of the island? How would you describe the difference in being from Sumai as opposed to being from Barito or Agana or Jotnya or someplace where...
Sumai, you felt like that bastard child. You didn't get any chance to take much. You had to run. You had no real place to run to unless you had a ranch somewhere. And it was the big hearts of other people in the island that took care of you. I remember my grandmother telling me how they ran to Agana. They hid in the Agana swamp under a cave that was underneath a breadfruit tree. And she said they had nothing. They had just the breadfruit to eat and maybe a few little things they could catch in the Agana Springs area, but you know, they had to scavenge. And most of the people on the other parts of the island, because you know, it took time for the Japanese to go up and invade the other parts of the island. They weren't really interested in the little secluded areas where there were groups of Chamorros. They were more in, wanting to get resources and get manpower to get the resources. Like at Nimbus Hill, they were mining manganese. In Tidzin, they were building an airfield. In Erodi, they were building an airfield. They were just doing things that they needed to do, and they were grabbing people as they needed. And there was a good workforce, because Chamorro people were very hard workers. And they would go out there and pick rocks, they would shovel dirt, they would do whatever it took. And if they were farmers and the Japanese came over, the Japanese normally took a lot of their produce that they grew. So if they had corn, they would go take the corn and they would give it to their troops. But you know, it was the hardships of why am I caught in this war that really bothered me, and those are the questions that, you know, I asked them. I said, how did you feel about that? And they said, well, we didn't know, you know, but it was our faith in God that kept us together. And that just goes back to the Catholic Church, and all the things they're getting battered for. It just broke my heart to see Notre Dame, catch fire. And I said, is this the trials and tribulations that God is talking about? It's got that pain inside. Like, what is going on in this world?
I think that a lot of people reacted to that yesterday. And when I was on the radio, I'm saying yesterday as a point of reference of when the fire started in Paris, but it was that. It was, I hope to God this is not a terrorist attack.
Didn't it feel like 9/11 all
did.
over again?
And when you saw that spire fall,
Yes.
I said, that is like this moment where something crashes to the ground that everybody has this sort of horrible memory of, the fixture that was the
first
World
time I
Trade
saw
Center.
that church, I was 8 years old, and I stood in that cathedral. And I just, for like 15 minutes, I could just look up and look at everything. And just the marvel of that place and the history that it has. And then to see it burn, oh my gosh. It's like, a lot of tragic events, including when I was a little kid when JFK got assassinated. That was a rough one.
That was the one that they always said that you could determine where you were in your life. There was like,
Yes.
for people like us, it was where were you when JFK was shot. Maybe for my children, it's where were you when the towers fell. There were different, these landmarks. See, this is how we get onto conversations. We moved completely. But I think that you were making the point that during the hardship of war, it was always said that the spirit of the Chamorro resilience came from their faith.
It was. Absolutely. It was their faith and the basic fabric of how they were raised. How to take care of people, how to respect the land, how to harvest only what you needed from the ocean. Those things is what kept them together, because they, before the war, my grandfather used to tell me, he says, we don't waste anything. If the neighbors got pigs and we have extra food and it's spoiled, we give it to their pigs.
My brother said that to me once when I said, oh yeah, I'm a vegetarian. He goes, clearly you've never been hungry.
That's true. That's true.
Clearly, and that was absolutely
correct.
true.
I believe that.
Where have we made the misstep? And I'm talking just Guam centric, because you grew up in a very unique situation, probably different than the kids that you grew up with that you knew on the mainland. Their culture and this culture completely different.
Totally different.
Where in this, from your generation, and we aren't that far apart. I'm 59, so I consider us to still be in the
3
same.
years.
Yeah. Where have we failed, or where have our children? What have we done where our kids our millennial children are?
I think it all goes back to right after the war, when there were so many restrictions on Guam, and I don't know what the reason was, but it seemed like the attitude of that generation was, because we were newly selected Americans by the Organic Act, we were going to become full Americans. So we started adopting ways that we perceived as the American way. And there were things like, why did the Chamorro language almost disappear during that era, Those are the things that happened during that era. There were values that changed. There were even whippings, even discipline, even school values.
Was it that our parents wanted to provide, and that's what people tell me all the time, that our parents wanted to provide for us the best, maybe
better way.
Western culture, that we wouldn't have to live through what they went through.
We wouldn't have to endure what they went through, the hard work and everything. They preached education, 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 get the best education you can. I went to St. John's School up to 9th grade only because that's the highest grade they had there. And my dad said, I don't care what, you're going to become successful. I don't want to have to worry about you providing for your family, because I'm not going to be here forever. So,
and then you went to JFK, which is your alma mater.
I didn't learn anything in 3 years at JFK. I have to admit that.
Those were wasted years for me sometimes too.
I think I taught everybody more than I learned.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have failed your children? Are your children on the straight and narrow?
No, I would say that I've been complacent also. I think we all have been complacent. And you can see it in the community, the deterioration of values and respect and discipline.
But do you demand that your children respect
Yes.
people.
You have
that,
to.
yeah,
You
you
have
have to
to.
instill that.
Yes.
Before we go, because we only have a couple of minutes, you have led a new charge with your alma mater. Although you feel like it was wasted years, apparently they still have a place in your heart.
Yes. Yeah, JFK's got a very, it's in a soft spot of my heart, you know, and I think it's because of the culture, everybody working together. I remember when I went to JFK, something that I didn't learn at St. John's was, you know, we went to each other's houses, we took care of each other, we did things that we didn't do at private school. So I developed a close-knit group of friends there, and we're getting ready to have the 60th reunion next year in 2020. It's going to be in March, last week of March, last weekend. And we've been doing this now a few years, nearly a decade. We've gone to different U.S. cities and had a mega reunion for all the years of John F. Kennedy. And that includes Tumon High School, which was what it was named before John F. Kennedy. And so next year, we're going to have the 60th reunion here in Guam, and we're going to have a superb event, and we're going to fill the Doucet Ballroom, and we're going to have a dedication for the statue.
Then you guys are bringing in a new statue.
Yeah.
Is it JFK?
You know, I searched around the world for the best statue I could find, because honestly, I don't like fiberglass statues, and I don't like, you know, things that are made of stone that deteriorate.
What is it made of?
So it's made out of bronze.
Bronze
You know,
statue.
We went the extra 9
yeah.
yards, and we got a true German to build it, who came from a lineage that built the famous statues in Germany.
Oh.
So it's going to be amazing, and I you know, it's our gift.
Okay. What year is this that you graduated?
I graduated in 1975. That's most people. It's probably like before the war. So.
Yeah. Well, I was in '77, so that's why we're not too far off.
Those were the good years.
Those were the good years. We had a lot of fun back then.
You
We
know,
got into a lot of trouble, but
They
it
talk
was
about cannabis. There was a lot of cannabis in those years.
Yeah. Don't talk to me about marijuana. Well, thanks a lot, Eddie. It's always good
Thank
to
you,
talk
Patty.
to you, man.
I've
I
always
appreciate
enjoyed being your friend.
It's always nice to have a nice conversation with you. We'll do it again.
Sure,
All
anytime.
right. That does it for us here on Something to Talk About. Enjoy your time with your family.
Happy Easter.
See you next time.